Hi guys, how's it going? My name is Josh. I'm the owner and founder of the BioDude. You can see, you guys might remember this habitat. Mr. Smithers was actually in here. And you guys also remember coming in here, I had my Ackie Monitor and a giant habitat. So I actually switched them because we added a new member to the BioDude family. So we took all the existing substrate that was in the old habitat and transitioned it over here to build this awesome desert bioactive habitat for our Ackie Monitor in here. We got some crazy agaves and some rosemary and a whole bunch of stuff in here, and it's just thriving and doing great. But what I'm really excited for is to introduce the new members of the family. So you guys know, part of my backstory is when I moved down to Texas, I had to rehome my bredli pythons that I had for many years. So this is Mr. Smithers. This is my male bredli python. You can see his beautiful coloring, and we did have him in that massive Kage's habitat. And now the other end of my project is now Mrs. Smithers. Now Mrs. Smithers is the same lineage that Mr. Smithers is, and is just an absolute doll. She is beautiful. She has cleared quarantine. She actually cleared quarantine a while ago, but it's taken me a little bit of time just to get her habitat ready. But just to kind of put it into perspective of her size, but just look at this color. Look at the size of her head. I'm so lucky to have such a beautiful animal as part of my as part of my showroom here. And the habitat I'm building is their breeding habitat. So it is the very beginning of October. We've been cycling them, keeping them a little cooler. And when I say a little cooler, pretty cool. We've been feeding her extra large foods once a week, as well as Mr. Smithers, to get them in breeding condition. And my hope is that I'll be breeding them this October. And many of you guys know that my children pythons bred and had a whole bunch of babies, which we actually are going to have for sale on Morph Market really soon. So make sure you check out our Morph Market account and see what live animals we're actually shipping out of the BioDude, all produced here. But let's get to the build because I'm really freaking excited about this. Check it out. This is all the terra firma that was in Mr. Smithers' habitat. We went and added about 72 quarts of substrate and about 4 6-quart bags of leaf litter, 2 6-quart bags of palm bark. The cleanup crew population is bustling. I will be adding a little bit of other types of cleanup crew in here to help facilitate the overall process. And I did top off the substrate with some BioVive, essentially to make sure that everything is thriving. So as far as lighting, I'm trying a different approach here. If I feel like I need to switch over to my T5 solar grows and put them in the cages, I definitely will. But you know, I'm really excited about this, and I think it's time that we get building. So right over here, we have a whole plethora of stuff. I have a whole bunch of different types of plants, cork bark, and some new types of stuff that I'll be carrying here at the BioDude. This is one of my newer items that I'll be having on the website soon. This is birch branching. It's so good for cleanup crew. They sure love this paper-like bark. And then we also have monkey vines, also known as Liliana vines and other things like that, just to kind of give you a perspective of what I'm looking at. And then, of course, I do have a lot of cork bark branches, cork bark tubes, as well as a whole bunch of Malaysian driftwood, as well as a whole bunch of different types of plants. So the first thing that I want to remember with these guys is that they like to be flat. While they are good at climbing, it's also important that I keep in mind that they have lots of places to be able to climb. So I'm going to make sure that I facilitate that, as well as bask. So I'm gonna first get my first big pieces of cork bark in here, and gonna get them placed so I can get a feel for how well this is functioning. And this is Mr. Smithers' cork tube, and there is no way that he would let me not give this back to him, because this was his favorite log in there, and I'm just gonna put that right into the back right like this. I'm hoping to have an open floor plan for these guys. So that way I want to be able to see them, but I also want them to have as much freedom of movement as possible. This one I'm actually going to put in after the fact. So next is now the rest of my background. Look at this beastly Dieffenbachia right here. that I actually got from Jimbo's Nursery here in Houston. You guys should check them out. They're a big bromeliad nursery. Love their business. But I mean, just look at this animal. Just look at this beast. I love it. All right, so I'm gonna take this Dieffenbachia. I'm actually gonna put it right back here. So the biggest thing when you're dealing with large plants like this, you can just see how extensive this root system is. You can also see that I've de-dirted it entirely. We made sure that we rinsed it off really good to make sure it's safe to go in here. Make sure we don't have spider mites, thrips, nasty fertilizers, or anything that could be harmful to my snakes. And then I'm just gonna dig a nice deep hole. Yeah, I like that. Okay. And then I do have one of the OG hibiscus trees. Love me hibiscus. These put out really pretty red, yellow, orange flowers, and they grow in the type of climate that I'm gonna be creating for my snakes. You can also see their root system is extremely extensive and very delicate. It has a lot of smaller pieces to it. So we were really careful when we de-dirted it and made sure it was acceptable for our habitat. I'm gonna do the same thing. Okay. Next, I got some, check this out. It's called a ZZ plant. Their root systems are out of this world. I mean, look how thick and dense this is. And then if you look, it's like almost a soft-bodied plant, but it's extremely dense. This is gonna be really good for my snakes. They're not gonna crush it, they're not gonna bend it. They're gonna be able to put their fat bodies all over it and it'll be just fine. Now, this one can deal with a little bit more of a hot spot as well. So what I'm gonna do is this one's gonna be closer to where their heat bulb is. So I'm gonna put this right here and I'm gonna make sure the root systems are 100% covered up. I don't wanna leave any of the roots exposed with the potential of them getting flattened or trampled or damaged. But there is always that risk with the snakes that they will want to come in here and uproot and move some stuff around, and that's okay. I want them to love and enjoy their habitat. Now, these I'm really excited for. These are red yucca plants. So what I really like about these is they're extremely durable. And they almost look like an onion growing out of a bulb. And these can handle dry, they can handle so much humidity spikes, which is exactly the type of habitat that we're building for my snakes. It's drier at this time of the year because winter time is coming. And then towards the end of the springtime, when typically my girls will lay their eggs. And that's when I'm hoping Miss Smithers, in a couple months after meeting Mr. Smithers, will lay a really nice clutch for me. That is the hope. And then from this other habitat here, we have this beautiful aglaonemia. Look at this. Absolutely remarkable. I love how this looks. Okay. All right. Next, we have to provide a little bit more surface area that allows for them to climb, as well as just get general access to the different areas of the habitat. So to facilitate that, I have a whole bunch of different stuff here. I have this cork branch. This was originally part of Mr. Smithers' habitat as well. And honestly, there's still probably cleanup crew deep embedded into here as I rip off this bark, but I don't want to do it because I just know it's going to look great the way it is with the bark. I like that. Let me see. I do like that. Okay. I got a couple more branches and some Liliana vines as well that I definitely want to take advantage of here, as well as potentially some of the birch. Again, I want to give them as much space as possible, but also give them different types of barriers. All right, I'm going to step back for just a moment. Really got to give it to my inventory guy. Whenever we get our wood shipments in, he's really good at setting pieces aside in Boss Man's bin. to make sure that I always have really good pieces for my builds. So that's always really nice. However, one of the glaring things that I know that I'm going to need to really pay attention to is the how accessible to water. So initially, I actually was going to use something like this, but I'm going to start with this size here. And this is actually a base of a tiki waterfall from an Exoterra. Then I'm actually going to start with this as my water, and I'm going to put it on the cooler side, and just see how that goes, how it flows, and see if it works for our intensive purposes. All right, guys. So I do have the rough hardscape, and I'm taking a look at it, and it's answering everything I wanted it to. There's not so much stuff in here that it's overcrowding the habitat to the point when I won't be able to see my inhabitants, but it's also providing a lot of different areas for them to be able to climb, sit, and get different basking opportunities. Now, I'm gonna be watching at the different basking zones very quickly, especially as they get assimilated in here, to make sure I'm getting those key hot spots. But right now, because they were going through their cooling period, their temperature and their habitat's gonna be a little bit lower. I really like the plant selection. I think there's a lot of opportunity for all the plants in here to continue to grow and get a really good size. And honestly, the only thing left to do is to do our top off. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna get the water dish. I'm just gonna, here we go. Then I'm gonna take the pods, I'm gonna dump them right in the back. Okay, and next, last but not least, is some moss. Y'all know me, I love moss. We're gonna see how it goes. We were able to have Mr. Smithers' habitat really function extremely well and look really nice. So I'm actually just gonna lay down a little bit of spag moss here at the top, right like this. Then I have this, look at how beautiful this moss is. Look at this, guys. That is breathtaking. Absolutely beautiful. Like that. All right, here we go. I'm gonna put this like this. Now, my hope is that it's not coming into contact with the substrate as much, but more along the lines of getting its moisture that it needs from the sphagnum moss. I love how it's a lot denser on the cool side, and as you migrate over to the more hotter side, less humidity zone, the plants replicate that. And again, that's really what I'm trying to give these guys. These pythons are known for being fairly easy to take care of. They just get big. So it really is, I love how this looks. I'm gonna give this a really nice misting, and then I think we can get the snakes. All right, guys, so I'm pretty happy with how everything's gone. I'll be sure to update you guys in a couple weeks to let you guys know how I fared with the lights as far as the way I'm doing it, and if I decided to keep it that way, as well as if they do decide to breed. But the next steps is putting them in here. So first, we're gonna start with the OG. My dude. I love it. I am so lucky to have these guys. And I have done so many educational events. Smithers has not only inspired me, but a lot of other younger kids to not be so afraid of snakes. There you go, dude. And there he goes, already making his burrow down, just like that. Hey, baby. You are about to meet what I hope to call your soulmate, who you'll be spending the rest of your life with, because, guys, Australian pythons. So if you guys know anything about me, before BioDude, I owned a business called Genesis Exotics with my brother, where I specialized in like mainly dart frogs and tree frogs, and I bred so many species of tree frogs, but just this year, breeding the childrens and rearing those eggs and having those babies was probably one of the best breeding experiences that I've ever had in my life. And I really hope that with the care and with what we're putting in, that Mr. and Mrs. Smithers will breed for me. Just so you guys know, Mrs. Smithers is approximately 7.5 years old. And she is a Price Lazic line, just like Mr. Smithers. And I'm really, really lucky. I mean, look how thick she is. All right, baby. It's time. And we'll see how all this stuff does in here. We'll see if this moss gets flattened to a crisp. We'll see if the plants get flattened to a crisp. One thing I love about bredli is the further down you go, the darker they get. The further up you go, the lighter they get. And just like that, Smithers has already gone into his tube. You can see him down there. He goes, "This is my tube." I remember. All right, guys. So I really hope you enjoyed going through this build with me as much as I enjoyed putting it together. Like the nature discovery video, this has been a build that I've been planning for what feels like years. And it's just really great that my two favorite animals in my whole showroom, that they can now finally have the biggest cage. And it just feels really good to finally get to do it. And you guys know me. My name is Josh Halter. I'm the owner and founder of the Biodude. Feel free to hit that like and subscribe button. Follow me on all the social media platforms, and come to my store. We're here 6 days a week, guys. You can come and see them, and if she's out basking, maybe even hold her. But I really appreciate everybody's support. It's definitely a challenging year, but just like everybody else, we're trucking through it. I really appreciate everybody's support, and so does Mr. and Mrs. Smithers. The dude abides.